Hi, welcome to Up Your Nerd Cred. Did you used to know everything that was happening in the Marvel and DC universes? Did finding out that some superheroes are from Marvel and some are from DC blow your mind? Has keeping track of everything happening there and then realizing that we're only talking about the comics universes, not the cinematic ones, and the different universes with their own multiversal crises have gotten a little bit out of hand? Well, don't worry. Up Your Nerd Cred is here to talk about the gods cosplaying as men, the men cosplaying as gods, and how much the cinematic universes are really leaving out. At the end of each episode, you'll hopefully know a little bit more than you did and can up your nerd cred. Your casual nerd host, CiCi. Now, look, I know that most of my anecdotes are about my kid, but let me tell you, he is not prepared for when my dog's ears go sport mode. Okay, like she pulls them back and I have to leave him and husband guy in the dust because she runs hard. So cute.
Well, I mean, as long as you're happy with your puppy and your baby, that's the important thing. And I'm your expert nerd host, AM Diaz, who is normally your year-round holiday elf, but only with blue skin and a tail, which I will be doing this weekend for a charity event involving Toys for Tots in Santa Monica Boulevard. So just give me a little shout
Nightcrawler
out.
is such a good Catholic. Aw. All right. Well, guess what? This is an expert level two-parter. Woo!
I'm also
So-
surprised we can fit this all into a two-part episode.
Oh, yeah. So, since we're here, though, what are we nerding out about this week? Now, as a reminder, listeners, you can nerds out about all kinds of things, okay? It does not just have to be heroes and villains. I saw a TikTok where someone's chain of command heard about them being racist and waving guns around on social media. Lying under oath is perjury, Christy. It's perjury. And Merrily We Roll Along is in theaters, not just the theater. So go see Elphaba, a wizard, and a lovely singer-dancer named Jonathan. Or I guess you could go see Wicked 2 again, that's fine. So, what am I nerding out about? Honestly, okay, yes, all of my stories are about my kid. But I took him to see his school today, and it was really nice because all of the children were so they were welcoming. They're like, oh, we have a new friend. Let's introduce the new friend. Let's show the new friend around. Let's show them how we're doing stuff here. And it's really nice how children, babies, they're so cute. They're just like, oh, a new friend. A new person is off the rip, a new friend. And that's so nice.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
I'm going to do my best. Teenagers are terrifying.
Indeed.
So what are you nerding out about?
Well, as many people know, this last week, the Supergirl trailer has dropped. The essentially sequel to the Superman movie from 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very much a James Gunn energy type film, where we are not getting your CW Supergirl or your 1980s Supergirl movie. No, we are going for the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow comic who is crashing out because she is PTS victim of the destruction of Krypton, and she is spiraling. But she's also got a cute dog who is chaos.
Okay, but see, crypto is kind of the main reason to actually go and see the movie as far as I am concerned. And now, I'm not going to lie, I haven't seen the trailer because I have been trying to be, I've been trying to be going into things a bit more blind, so to speak.
Well, the good thing with the trailer that we saw is that it doesn't reveal too much.
Yeah.
We just get an idea about where Supergirl is in this version of the story.
Okay, good.
And like I said, it's very much it takes a different approach with Supergirl, where the CW version, she was basically a female version of Clark. Very optimistic, hopeful. They turned her into a news reporter, and yeah.
Right.
But with this one, it's a Supergirl who she is just trying to cope and survive. She was, unlike Clark, she was a young girl when Krypton exploded, so she has all the vivid memories of what it was like before and after the explosion. And
yet they definitely make her out to seem like the younger cousin. If she was old enough to have memories and he was a baby, why does she seem to be like she's in her mid-20s and he's, like, 30-something?
Well, we haven't been given her backstory yet, but it's most likely they do what they do in most modern storytelling,
Mhm.
and that is that Kara and Kal-El were sent to Earth at the same time. But Kara was knocked off course, and ended up essentially either trapped in the Phantom Zone or trapped in some suspended animation. So while 20 plus years passed on for Clark, and he grew into adulthood, Kara remained the same age that she was when she left Krypton. So she, well, physically is older, she is still younger than Clark, mentally and all that stuff. And she also basically doesn't have a purpose.
Okay.
Like one of the issues with the CW show with Kara was that she was sent to Earth along Clark and with the expectation of helping raise him. But when she gets there, Clark is already a full-blown adult, and so Kara has to figure out her own life independent of the role that she was prepared for.
O okay, well, not everybody
And I
gets to be a mom.
and I have a feeling that's kind of what's going on with Kara in this series, where, she came to Earth the expectation of taking care of her cousin, but Clark doesn't need somebody to take care of her or take care of him. So she is basically like, all right, well, I have trauma. And as we saw at the end of Superman, she is self medicating with alcohol.
School. It's eggnog
So,
season.
but yeah, the trailer shows a very. Some people have compared it to Guardians of the Galaxy in some thing, and I can see where they're coming from. But
I
this
mean,
works for this
James Gunn
version
is
of.
in charge of, like, the whole DC verse, though, so him
Yes.
having, like, some Guardians kind of vibes is gonna make sense.
And this makes sense with, like I say, this version of Kara, considering the fact that it is based on the comic series Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that episode, or that, not episode, that book kind of fell into Kara's mental health being a survivor of Krypton.
Mhm.
And also plays on what they established at the end of Superman, where she goes off world to planets with red suns and stuff, because that's the only way she can get drunk.
Alright, well, I'm going to ask Ian to take a quick break, and we are going to talk about where it is that I can find possible red suns, and we will be back to up your nerd cred. Welcome back. So, podcast listeners, I had mentioned to AM when we were doing the schedule, that I wanted to do an episode about Flash being on the wrong timeline.
Yeah.
He asked which one I was talking about, and I didn't realize that it was gonna be so difficult to figure it out. See, I figured that we would mostly be talking about Barry Allen, Grant Gustin played him on the CW, and I definitely remember that there was an older Flash that they had, right? He had, like, a silver hat on and some cool wings and such,
Hmm.
but, I mostly just assumed that he was the Golden Age Flash, and then Barry Allen took over, and that was pretty much who we were talking about. Plus, look,
Oh, how innocent you were.
I also know that we don't really talk about Ezra Miller anymore, but that was also a Barry Allen Flash. So
Yeah.
not remembering the other ones makes sense, right?
Well, unfortunately, yeah, I get it. But yeah, the problem that is happened is Barry Allen has become the most prominent Flash, and that's
Mhm.
mostly due to the fact that, and I love the man, he's written some amazing works. It's Jeff Johns' fault. Because for the better part of like 20 some years, Barry Allen was not the Flash.
We will get to that part.
Yes, we will.
Okay, we
I'm
will.
just saying, it's like Barry has only become as popular as he had over the last couple of decades, but there was a long period where Barry Allen was not our boy.
Yeah, and there was a lot of fan back and forth about that kind of thing and
Hmm.
the anyway, that's not important. What is important is that we are actually going to be talking about 5 different flashes. Yeah. I thought that we'd be maybe covering 3 at best. 5.
Yeah, there
5.
are there are quite a few flashes that have been running around. And in fact, 5 is we're just going for the like mainstream more popular flashes when we're talking about these guys, because there are so many others. I mean, we're not even like touching into like certain other flashes like Avery Ho, the Flash of China, or the uh dark flashes, or the reverse flashes, or the negative flashes, or yeah. And of
I would like
course
to
we
point
have
out
all of our kid flashes too.
AM on a regular basis is trying to downplay his vast knowledge. He tries to act like this vast knowledge base that he has is,
Oh,
not. I sometimes think that maybe I might be catching up a little bit. Nope. I have joked on more than one occasion that he's forgotten more than Kevin Feige's team has known, but it's worth reminding James Gunn that AM is just as comfortable in the DC verse as in the Marvel verse. Okay, we love a verse man.
And good night, everybody.
But
We're not supposed to talk
if we're
about that on the podcast.
if we're going to be talking about the Flashes in any kind of reasonable manner, we are going to have to start at the very beginning.
A very good place to
Unsolicited.
start.
Yeah, that's what I hear. So, we're going to be starting by discussing Mr. Jason Peter Garrick, who was created by Gardner Fox and Harry Lampert, whose first appearance was in the Flash Comics #1 in January 1940. That's right. This is the original Golden Age Flash.
Daddy
Right?
J.
He is the first speedster, and my God, was this origin 1940s
Oh,
coming.
100%.
He inhaled hard water vapors, and this gave him super speed.
Yes, the amazing ability of hard water,
Now,
because that made sense.
I'm very much 2025 girly, and a hard beverage means that there's just a little booze in it. I guess maybe they had different hard water vapor
Oh
back in
no,
the
the
day?
best part is he wasn't just like messing around with hard water, but also other chemicals, and he decided to take a smoke break while he was doing that too. So it would have either been the human Flash or the human torch.
I mean, the other guy was like made of asbestos though, so,
Yeah.
pick your poison, I guess. So, also later there was retconned about being a meta gene activation that just happened to happen at the same time, but no.
Well, I mean
Also later.
that's basically how they've
But
explained all superheroes in the DC universe, that a lot of them basically kind of like borrowed a little bit from the X-Men, and saying that in humanity a lot of people have that metagene that can activate, but it needs certain stimuli to do it.
like random chemicals in a cigarette. Okay.
Essentially, yes.
Well, they also later retconned it again so that he's like connecting to the Speed Force, but it feels very much like Miles Morales getting kind of folded into like that larger Spider-Verse,
Well,
like
to be fair, the Speed Force came before Miles Morales and the Spider-Verse.
yes, that's true,
So,
but you're sitting there thinking that like you're just a dude with powers, and then all of a sudden it turns out there's a whole bunch of other people who have the same powers, and it's connected to like this whole specific extra dimensional. I'm
I
doing
get
too
that.
much.
And I get that, but it's like you also have to just remember that. I mean, we'll get to this in a minute, but the Flash, basically from the start, was creating a legacy,
Yeah.
and we'll explain in a minute. But yeah, it's like there's a reason why the Speed Force fits so well with the Flash family.
I mean, it was written for them, but yes. Anyway, that's, no, that's the, anyway, villain wise, Jay was fighting the rival in his heyday. So this was a professor named Edward Claris who managed to get the hard water vapors and increase his speed and also slow Jay down.
Hmm.
Fortunately, Jay was able to regain his speed, mazel, and was a founding member of the Justice Society of America.
Yep, the original superhero team. A very interesting one, because when they put together the Justice Society, it was comprised of a bunch of Golden Age heroes. So we had the Flash, the Green Lantern, Doctor Fate, Hawkman, and then we had a bunch of other like lesser known characters like the original Atom, the God, what were some of the others? Wildcat, the original Black Canary, and this was also around the time that Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman also existed.
Mm-hmm.
But funny enough, they weren't allowed to actually appear in the comics because they didn't want these characters being overused by the superhero team, because they wanted to have their own independent things. So Batman and Superman were honorary members, and Wonder Woman was brought on eventually
Mm-hmm.
as the team secretary.
Okay, wow. I was gonna say, like, is this like them keeping Carol off world so that she doesn't just like, beat everybody in 2 seconds? But
Kind of.
having a demigoddess as your secretary is a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how more recent stories have had it to where, oh no, she was like either a leader or co-leader or something like that.
Okay, well, as a reminder of the time period, they were actually investigated by HUAC, the House Un-American Activities
Mhm.
Committee.
I think we talked about this in a
HUAC,
previous episode.
yeah, HUAC wanted their identities revealed. I don't I don't quite get it, but it seems it's kind of weird that the government keeps trying to get a list of supers' real identities
I
since
mean, to be fair, if you have a group of superpowered weapons running around being completely independent, governments are going to want to try to control that.
yeah, but they're also like people. So
Oh
maybe
no, I
you can
100% agree with you. I'm just saying
so
it's like we can't be surprised by this because let's be honest, if we had metahumans running around today, the government would be doing everything they could to get them under thumb.
I mean, a bunch of the work could be done by just paying them, just being like, "Hey, here's some money."
Not for these heroes. They would not take the money. Some of them might work for the government for, but the ones who are doing it because pure love of helping people, they would never accept that because they don't want to be under the control of a government's political desires, i.e., Captain America
Yeah.
Civil War.
I was gonna say, like, Cap has, like, a very strong feelings about this kind of thing, so we're gonna move away from that part, and we're
Yeah.
going
How dare we
to,
get topical and political?
I'm not gonna suggest anything of that nature. I'm just gonna say that, once it got to a point where they were starting to get really just, like, aggressive about trying to control the supers, Jay went ahead and married his long-term girlfriend, Joan, and flipped the double bird to superhero life and, returned to life as a scientist.
Well, I mean, he kind of flipped this bird to superhero life because Jay kept having situations pop up.
Well, see, what happened is that Mr. Incredible also retired from superhero life.
Oh yeah,
So
but with with Jay, I mean, we're gonna talk about this in a little bit, but Jay found out he wasn't the only Flash running around.
you can't tell all of the stories up ahead of time. Right. So, but during the time frame though that he, flipped the double bird, went to scientist life, superheroes in general were declining in popularity. It's the
Hmm.
post-war era, and the Flash, unfortunately, was part of that larger drop off in comics. So,
Yeah,
the
unfortunately, the
series was
entire JSA, with the exception of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, were very much failing around that time.
yeah. Like after about 10 years in circulation, they were canceled.
Yeah,
And we
but
never heard
also,
from Jay Garrick again. I'm just kidding so hard. I'm just kidding so hard. We'll get
could you
to it.
imagine?
Oh my god. Okay. So at this point though, we're going to switch from talking about Jay Garrick Flash to the Barry Allen Flash. I mean, this is the guy that most people think of whenever they think of the Flash, and probably for a good reason.
Yeah, some more than others.
Okay, well, let's formally introduce our boy, okay? So his legal name is Bartholomew Henry Allen.
You can see why then he shortened it to Barry.
I mean, yeah, although, like, he could go with, like, Hollow or, Bartho. I'm
I
just
don't think that
saying,
would have
like,
worked. I'm just saying that it would probably not have worked during the Silver Age.
no, during the Silver Age, no, but,
Yeah,
there's all
and now
kinds
it
of
just and even then it still sounds weird.
that's fair. But, I mean, Topher Grace, his first name is Christopher. You just dropped the
Yeah,
Chris part of Topher.
yeah, but Topher's been a reoccurring name for a long time.
Yeah, I know, but anyway, the important part is that he was created by Robert Kanigher, John Broome, and Carmine Infantino, and first appeared in Showcase number 4 in October 1956. Now, you will notice that the first appearance date for him is October 1956. Barry Allen is very much the Silver Age Flash, and he's actually kind of, who helped revive like the superheroes genre.
Hmm.
Um, you know,
Him and his buddy, Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, they were the two heroes that kind of switched it from the pulp heroes of the 1930s and 40s and jumped into more of the space race, sci-fi storytelling of the 1950s and 60s.
Oh yeah. So like I said, so remember post-war era, and a lot fewer superheroes, more like, cowboys and horror and things of that nature. But, the silver era is really when stuff started to kick back up and actually start to become kind of fun again, right?
Well, yeah, but it was also a big reason for this change was, as we've spoken before, and as we were talking about earlier, the House of Un-American Activities, the Seduction of the Innocents book came out.
Mm-hmm.
And we were getting a lot of bullshit about how, comic books were corruptive to the children's and how these superheroes were causing delinquency and un-American behavior. So
No!
the reason why Jay ended up retiring is basically the same reason comic books had to change, because basically the government was coming down on the comic industry really hard over
Yeah.
inane, stupid shit, which, sure, we're definitely not seeing any of that stuff re-manifesting these days.
I mean, it's not like history has been known to repeat itself or
No,
like
not at
something
all.
about like, failing to study history. I don't know. I skipped that class.
Yeah.
That's not true.
But
Mom, I did not skip that class. Oh my god.
But yeah, it's like like I said, beforehand, comics were, like you said, cowboys, horror, pulp stories, and stuff like that. And a lot of that stuff wasn't allowed to happen anymore. Horror comics were completely cut down. Seductive femme fatales were not allowed to appear, i.e., Catwoman.
Right.
And yeah, we started seeing a lot. They had to find a new way to make things fun, and sci-fi and stuff like that was the way to go.
Yeah, well, so Barry Allen, he's a police forensic scientist type guy, right? So, he's gonna be more like the guy who's like, I guess what, managing blood spatter scenes and stuff like that, or like trying to figure out like what happened where, blah blah blah.
Yep, he's the nerd cop.
Basically, yeah, we're focusing on like science has a rational answer to everything, and we can figure out how things are going by applying the scientific method to it, right?
Yep. Just a pity during these early stories, they didn't quite know what the scientific method were, so his role as a forensic scientist kind of got overlooked a lot during this era.
Well, he was working in his lab late one night. I'm so sorry. It is December. It is not Halloween time anymore. But he was actually struck by lightning
In
in
his
a
lab
very,
late one night.
yeah, yes, see? But he was struck by lightning in something of an OSHA violation because why are there open chemicals on the shelf next to where you're located, Barry? That I'm
I
sure
mean, were
OSHA
they
hasn't
open?
been created yet, but that's not the point.
Were they open? Because it's like, I'm pretty sure a lightning bolt striking your shelf of chemicals is going to cause it to break open one way or another.
Okay. If you say so.
I'm
If
just
you
saying, it's
say
like,
so.
I don't think it was an OSHA violation per se. Now, Jay, on the other hand, that was an OSHA violation.
Wait, when did OSHA start, though? Hang on, let's find out when
uh,
the
I feel like that was like the
OSHA start.
70s or 80s.
71. So yeah,
Okay.
it's not an OSHA violation, I guess, in
Yeah.
1956. But generally speaking, it's probably not a good idea to just be leaving your chemicals lying around all willy nilly.
Mhm.
But it's great. He gets struck by lightning, and instead of having like weird scars, he wakes up and he has super speed. Like he can go fast.
Mhm.
Realistically speaking, this origin does seem to be slightly more reasonable than hard water vapors.
Yeah, there's a
Um,
lot more to it because we got a combination of a whole bunch of different chemicals that we don't know what they would do, especially back in this time period.
mhm.
It's like any
Mhm.
chemical could do anything, and then you add in the, just old, you know, mythical storytelling involving lightning,
Yeah, well, I
which
mean,
plays an even
one of
bigger
them
role.
sounds one of them sounds like somebody is drinking too much, and the other one is like, Frankenstein, he's alive, alive. I actually have not seen the Guillermo del Toro version yet.
Me neither.
But I will say that people really like Mia Goth's dress in that, and they've chosen that green on Threads as opposed to the whole cloud dancer thing. But that's a completely different conversation. Anyway, so like I don't entirely understand why in like the 60s and 70s there's like there's a Spider-Man thing happen, right? There's like a science is happening, and then somehow your fundamental DNA is changed, and then you have superpowers.
Well, I mean, it's science, and especially 1950s and stuff like that, where we were making huge leaps in science. You know,
Yeah.
space travel was starting to become a thing. New forms of transport, more streamlined cars and all that stuff. So back then, it was just like science can do anything. So maybe it can give us superpowers and make us beyond what normal is.
Yeah, well, Barry's power is gotta go fast, gotta go fast, gotta go fast, gotta go fast.
Okay,
He
Sonic.
he he runs fast. Okay, he can vibrate through walls. He thinks super quickly. He is the personification of ADHD.
But interestingly enough, they did not play that up with Barry. Because you would expect that with most speedsters, that they would have short attention spans because, you know, they think faster than everything else. But Barry was very much a 1950s type hero. Kind of milquetoast, kind of boring, very stalwart, true hero type guy.
A good man who does good things and has the
Essentially. And
problems.
his most interesting personality trait, however, was the fact that he was the fastest man alive, but he was always late to everything.
This is not beating the ADHD allegations, plus the whole thing where she's just like, how often is he eating? Like, he's eating all the time, but then he's, like, not eating because he's doing all these other things, and then he's just like, "Oh, shit, I need to eat or I'm gonna starve to death."
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like with Barry, it's like he was always saving people and doing random stuff that he was constantly late. And yeah, you're right. The food stuff. I mean, I think that was something that was developed later on down the line where they started really thinking about like food, metabolism, all that.
Yeah,
But
well, there's
yeah,
also, like, no Speed Force whenever he starts out, so, like, that.
well, that's the thing. It's like retroactively, yes, the Speed Force was already there, but at this time they hadn't developed that yet because we would
Right,
not
it's
get
like
that until later down the line.
I'm just saying, like, there's a whole lot of retconning that happens with the Flash just as a oh my god, so much retconning. So much retconning.
Yep.
Look,
But that's DC for you. It's like if they can retcon it, they will.
fair. I will say
Yeah.
that, with the Flash, though, one of the things that I am not as familiar with him as, like, an individual character, right? So, like,
Yeah.
some of his villains,
Oh, well,
I'm not
before we
really.
jump to the villains,
Wait, oh?
you know, one thing we didn't discuss is how he ended up becoming the Flash. Like we explained how he got his powers. We didn't explain where he got his name.
Well, feel free
Yeah,
then,
so
because I.
so
Go
an
ahead.
interesting thing because I kind of hinted about this earlier about how Jay was already setting up a legacy. And
Mhm.
then we get Barry. But the thing is, if you've watched the original TV show, or not the original TV show, but the CW TV show, you'll know that Jay was not part of the same Earth as Barry.
Mhm.
And this was the same case in the Flash comics.
Mhm.
Because back then, when the original Jay Garrick run of Flash comics ended, they kind of just like wiped him under wiped him away. And then they revealed that his stories and all that were actually comic books in Barry's universe. This allowed Barry to be the very first Flash. And after he gets his powers, he takes on the Flash identity and the lightning bolt as his symbol from Jay Garrick Flash comics that he read as a kid.
Mm.
And we find out that the writer of the comics, who is the same writer as the original Flash comics, Fox, what was his name?
I had it written down. Hang on.
Yeah,
Just a second.
Gardner Fox.
Yes.
So Gardner Fox was a real person in Barry's universe who was mentally attuned to another universe, Earth 2, where Jay Garrick existed. And so all of the stories that Gardner Fox was writing in Barry's universe were actually the adventures of Jay Garrick on his own Earth.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. We'll get into just because I want to tell you about who it is that he's hanging out with, and then we're going to talk about who he's hanging out with, and I'm just like, what
okay.
is going on, right? All right. So we're gonna go back to like the villains, and the really is because like I said, I'm not as familiar with him as an individual character. And so I'm even less familiar with his rogues galleries, but he apparently has fought Captain Cold, Mirror Master, Weather Wizard, Heat Rave, Gorilla Grodd. What in the Silver Age are these names and villains?
I mean, is it really that much different from the Riddler, the Joker, the Scarecrow, Catwoman?
Yes,
Not
because
really. It's
like
silly names with
Heat Wave.
motifs. Yeah,
I'm Mr. Heat Wave. I'm Mr.
I know what you're going for, but
Yeah,
doesn't quite
that's
work.
kind of what it comes. I'm Captain
Hi-
Cold Man, and I'm like it cold. Like that's what these names sound like.
Again, I mean, it's like it's not that different from every other villain that was coming out during that the Silver Age. You look at the Spider-Man villains, you look at the Batman villains. Heck, you look at Wonder Woman and even some of the Superman villains back then.
And you know what? Those are some stupid names too. But
Yeah,
who is Gorilla Grodd?
a super powerful gorilla that can talk and sometimes has mental powers.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the Flash villains, yeah, they're not as memorable as, say, the Batman villains or the Spider-Man villains, but they are interesting because of the fact that unlike other villains that want to watch the world burn or rule the world, Flash villains either are just villains to survive or for the love of the game. Flash villains are different than the rest of the villains sometimes because they're almost a community. They're friends. They hang out with each other. They have drinks and they share stories.
This
And
isn't like a Sinister Six kind of situation, like it's an evil team up. They're just hanging out.
I mean, they do team up and they do commit evil and try to kill the Flash, but at the same time, they all have kind of a weird sort of respect for the Flashes
Okay.
because and this is something that we'll see more with one of the later Flashes,
Mm-hmm.
but there's respect there. Like when something befalls a hero,
Mm-hmm.
a much later storyline that we've talked about before, Identity Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
That's the storyline where Sue Dibney, the wife of the elongated man, is murdered in a locked door mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And when word gets out that one of the wives of a superhero was killed, the rogues who regularly fought against Flash and Elongated Man, who used to team up a lot,
Mm-hmm.
they sent Ralph flowers, sending their true condolences of her passing. They
I
legit
mean,
felt bad for him that his wife had passed, and they did it as
just
a sign
because
of
I have
respect.
beef with one person doesn't mean that like I want their spouse to die. Like
Well,
I
even
want
that,
you to
but
die. I want them to be the widow, not you.
but that's the thing. Even then, they're just like they have a lot of times they have rules against actually killing people. Like they do it as a last resort. They don't often use it as the first resort.
This is some very actively Silver Age things, like villains can't prosper kind of vibes.
Well, no, but that's the thing. It's like they just want money and they enjoy being bad guys and stuff like that. They enjoy committing crimes and all that stuff. A lot of them.
So
But
would
the thing
they
is, they
join
do.
some kind of suicide squad and just like randomly break store windows for stuff?
I mean, sometimes they get drawn into that. But it is just kind of interesting that the Flash villains, a lot of times, especially characters like Captain Cold, he has a moral code that is kind of shocking for somebody who's that cold.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. If he can't find somebody cooler to share screen time with, he's going to go the same way as like the original Flash, get that like 20-year treatment that DC likes. Oh, I'm sorry, what? You mean
Mm.
his friends are the Justice League of America? I'm sorry, you mean his friends are Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and Green Lantern and Aquaman and Martian Manhunter? And Martian
Munhunter?
Manhunter?
The Munhunter.
Manhunter? Manhunter?
The
um,
Munhunter.
Number 100. Yeah. So those are some friends, right? And like,
Mm-hmm.
look, as we established, being on the Justice League isn't necessarily a fast pass to avoid that 20-year fridging from DC. The Flash has actually managed to outlive the strictures of the Comic Code Authority. When the villains had to go to the jail and the heroes had to win, and nobody has any other kind of trauma other than, oh, no, I'm late for dinner.
Or 20 years later, they retcon it, and then there's trauma.
Ha! Well, as you see, as the Silver Age progresses, the amount of trauma that our heroes are allowed to face is increased. And Barry Allen has absolutely had his fair share. Hey, Barry, you know that nice nuclear family you were raised with? Well, now you have childhood trauma in the form of your dad being accused of and jailed for killing your mom.
Is this something we should bring up now, or should we bring it up later after the next Flash?
No, we'll get there because
Yeah.
he's got. I'm just saying, like they gave the man some trauma because why not, right?
Oh, I get that. But the thing is, this trauma did not get introduced until
Oh, that was in the 90s, but that's okay. There's still trauma,
no,
right?
2000. I think it was the 2000s that got introduced.
Fun, exciting
Yeah,
knowledge
'cause
of being in a singular universe. Oh, I'm sorry.
mm,
No, Barry, we gotta have you actually break the timeline and low-key inventing the multiverse.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it earlier when we were explaining how he got his name. But yeah, Barry was the first hero to delve into the multiverse because, as we
Mm-hmm.
mentioned before, his the Jay Garrick stories that a lot of readers grew up with were in universe comics for Barry, and Jay was an existing person in just a different Earth that vibrated at a different frequency from his Earth.
Imagine being in the Watchmen universe and you manage to figure out how to get yourself into like the Black Flag pirate ship universe from the Watchmen verse. That's kind of what happened.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
just like
because it was like Barry's first foray into it was he was doing like a rope trick and like climbing a rope and vibrating himself, or vibrating the rope and vibrating himself while he was climbing the rope. But he went so fast that he vibrated between dimensional planes, and that's how he ended up landing in Earth 2.
yeah. So that's where like that's a world where supers didn't stop supering. And it
Well,
was it's
they
not
kind of
really
did
like
because when he landed in Earth 2, Jay had retired from being a superhero at the time. That was the reason why the Flash comics ended in his universe.
well, I mean, there's still like J like stories and stuff happening and stuff like that. Like like
Yeah.
yeah, like he's not the only like super like he didn't like the supers didn't all stop supering, but like he
Mhm.
did. You know, right? So it's a nice way to bring Jay back into the fold, and you know it's a really neat way to get around storylines that don't work temporally, because you know it's still a real canon story, just maybe not
Yeah,
on
well,
this
I mean,
Earth.
it was kind of a smart idea because a lot of people who were fans of the Jay Garrick and Alan Scott and Justice Society of America comics were
Hmm.
disappointed when they got shunted aside for these newbie characters, which, that's not like a reoccurring thing that happens all the time in modern comics.
I mean,
How many
yeah.
Robins are we up to now? But
You you
you
are the
know, I'm
expert. I don't know, the 7,
I was being facetious.
8? God, are there wait, hang on. No, I will count later. Anyway, yes, so
But yeah, they fans were disappointed that their favorite characters got moved aside for these newbies, and having them exist on Earth 2 and saying these stories still happened and these characters still come back. We can still bring them back whenever.
mhm,
Gave fans that, all right, my character's not gone. He's just, living his best life.
right.
But it did lead into the whole idea about bringing in all of these other characters, and that did lead to a lot more crossovers down the line.
Any interesting crossovers? Like, any, like, major infinite size crossover situations?
Oh, many, but the first ones were a bit more low key
Mm,
crossovers. They were still crises, but they
mhm.
were not across the multiverse yet.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's the thing,
we
though.
had
He
a few,
does
like, for example, there was the introduction of Earth X, which, if you've watched Peacemaker, many of you will be familiar with Nazi Earth.
do you really wanna taste it? No.
Yeah, no. But that was a crossover between Earth 2 and Earth 1 was the introduction of that storyline.
Mm.
And yeah, it's all started with The Flash. Is.
That's huh. Yeah, yeah. So, but no, I actually want to hear about this man ran so hard that he killed himself. How you run yourself to death to stop the anti-monitor? How you run yourself to death?
Well, I mean,
Explain! America, explain!
oh no, we can explain, but we'll have to jump into another character, and we still have a little bit to go on Barry before we move on to the next one.
Okay, good. Well, then you
But should we also like mention some of Barry's supporting cast, not just the villains?
oh, you mean like his very important wife, Iris?
Yep. I mean, Iris West was introduced the same issue as Barry was, but she was cut from the same cloth as another famous supporting love interest character, a
Hmm.
Miss Lane from
Oh,
Metropolis.
interesting. Are you suggesting that they have another no like Iris that be another no nonsense, like actually like pretty smart and low key, way more feminist than given credit for initially character?
So,
Hmm.
because I mean, they went as far as they could, but girl reporters were in at the time. We had
Well,
Lois Lane at Superman. We had Vicky Vale with Batman. So bring in one for the Flash. I mean, it works.
yeah, and also I would like to just say, you know, you're not hearing about the Flash with all these like, you know, all over the place. You know, you would think that the fastest man on earth could have like a girl in every port, but I
But Barry
guess
had eyes only for Iris.
when that lady popped on the scene, he was like, "Cool, none of you all exist."
Yep.
And
And But it was kind of unfortunate because thinking back, Barry did not have that expansive of a community like, say, Batman did with Commissioner Gordon and Alfred and all that.
Mhm.
You know, if you watched the CW Flash show, you saw that Barry had like Cisco and
That one lady who ended up playing, like, 3 different roles, was that
Mhm.
her?
Yeah, Caitlin Snow and, you know, a lot of Barry kind of was a little bit limited in his supporting cast. A lot of times when he got major characters introduced, it was stuff like Ralph Dibny, the Elongated Man, being like a
Mhm.
supporting backup character. And then, they developed his friendships with Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow, and Hal Jordan, the Flash, or not Flash, the Green Lantern.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely seems to be more, like, when he's by himself, he has, a lot of practicality and utility, but I think that he seems to be more of, like, better in a team up kind of situation.
Particularly with Barry, I kind of feel like that is true because, as I mentioned before, Barry, especially during his introduction up until the 1980s, he was very much a kind of milquetoast character,
Yeah.
and he did not really get the kind of development that he would later get in the 2000s and 2020s, which we will discuss.
Development or trauma.
hmm But yeah, it's one of those where you know Barry had some limitations as for world building and character development. We got a lot of stuff with his abilities, but he wouldn't really get a proper, you know, somebody who wasn't just Iris, his love interest,
Mhm.
until the introduction of a certain redheaded child.
We
Do we want to delve into that, or should we save that for next
I
time?
think we should save that one, but let's take a quick break to whisper amongst ourselves about redheaded children, and we will be back for our thrilling conclusion. Welcome back to our thrilling conclusion. So, it's really important for me as a whole person to point out that the Crisis on Infinite Earths that I mentioned happened in 1985. That was 40 years ago when Barry Allen ran himself to death.
Are we giving spoilers for part two?
Well, what I'm going to say is the fact that there is a lot that has happened
Yeah, and we
in
still haven't
those
even
40 years.
and we haven't even delved into the crisis itself yet, which I think
Yeah,
we need to.
so
Yeah, we're gonna have to go into that more next time.
get ready for part 2, okay? Because we are going to be talking about a whole lot of timelines just going all
hmm
kinds of crazy, all right? Like this
Yeah, it's
man.
like all the stuff we just talked about was easy mode for the Flash family.
Mhm.
When we
Yeah.
get into introducing our mystery redheaded child, that's when things are gonna get kicked up a notch.
We're not going to tell you anything more about the mystery redhead child because you need to listen to our episode next week. But while we're looking ahead or backwards, however you want to describe it, here's some stuff to go on your nerdy calendar. So 1967, Carol Danvers actually makes her debut in Marvel's Superheroes number 13 by Roy Thomas and Gene Colan. Our friend Matt makes an appearance. Happy birthday, Matt! 12/14/2018. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse releases into theaters.
We need that
And
sequel.
please. So 12/15/1971, Beast, aka Dr. Hank McCoy, aka that crazy man that we don't like to talk about sometimes because that man went crazy,
hmm
showed his furry form for the first time in Amazing Adventures number 11 by Jerry Conway and Tom Sutton.
Funny story,
And
he was not blue when he was first turned furry. He was gray.
kind of like cat-like looking, actually.
Yeah, no, it's like they kind of gave him a little bit of a cat look when they did that,
He looked
and
more like he would have blended in with the Thundercats if he was hanging out with them, not gonna lie.
he kind of gave Panthro,
Yeah.
but with
But,
more hair on top, not bald. Was Panthro
I mean,
bald?
we're not gonna figure out, like, the baldness of the
I
Thundercats.
was just like, but do you think they were fuzzy or were they like
We are not
flesh?
going to worry about this. My god. This is the kind.
Tell us in the comments, audience, if you think the Thundercats were fuzzy or if they were smooth.
This is You're the kind of person who's gonna end up asking for butthole cuts
I
from
mean,
cats. Oh my god. Anyway, in 1981, we have the debut of Cloak and Dagger. They appeared for the first time in Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man #64 by Bill Mantlo and Ed Hannigan.
Oh, those poor kids. Their origin story has been retconned almost as much as Donna Troy has.
Listeners, we've come to the end of our podcast. I know, you're devastated. Don't worry, our next episode will be out next week. And if that's not fast enough, you're welcome to listen to this one again or join our Patreon.
Nerd Cred takes time to build.
But if you can turn being ADHD personified into a thriving career, go for it.
Woo!
Anyways,
yeah, we've got an Instagram at your Nerd Cred pod.
I'm at Kira C. Davis, CIRAC Davis, across platforms.
And I'm at AMDS Art across most platforms. Sometimes there is an underscore there.
We are on Apple and Spotify and YouTube, and we're working on expanding our reach. If you have a burning question you want us to tackle so you can up your nerd cred, make sure you like, subscribe, leave comments, join the Patreon. And if we pick your question, we'll shout you out.
Also, we have launched the Patreon, as my lovely co-host has mentioned.
The Patreon?
The Patreon. And while you should definitely follow the link to the show notes to join it, please make sure you get, just make sure you sign up and send some money, please.
Yeah, and make sure you get your friends to and subscribe to the pod, and your family, and your coworkers that you trust not to be weird about listening to the same podcast as you. And
good night, everybody.
Yeah.